Play it, and I'll give you my car." The words cut through the air like a challenge, sharp, mocking, soaked in arrogance. Welcome to my channel where racism is exposed in the rawest, realest moments. Hit that subscribe button and comment where you're watching from. Because this story, it's not just about a slap, it's about a silent power that shook an entire company to its core. Outside a mansion so big it could cast a shadow on dreams, a homeless black man stood still, his eyes fixed on the grand piano gleaming just beyond the iron gate. The car keys jingled in the white heir's hand, a silver trap for humiliation. Chadwick Stone, 3, smirked, leaning against his sports car like royalty bored of the world. "Come on, man," he sneered, voice loud enough for his friends to hear. "Show us what the streets taught you. Maybe you'll earn a tip." Laughter exploded. Expensive laughter, the kind that tastes like privilege and mockery. But Marcus didn't flinch. He just looked at the piano again. That sound, even from a distance, it called to him. The notes drifting from inside the gate were off-tune, hollow, lifeless, like money trying to imitate soul. He took a step forward. "I don't want your car," Marcus said quietly. "I just want to play." That made them laugh harder. Chadwick's friend, a girl in designer sunglasses, rolled her eyes. "Is he serious? Look at his clothes." Marcus's shirt was torn, shoes falling apart, skin sunburned from sleeping rough. But his hands, though dirty, carried the quiet confidence of someone who once held something greater. Chadwick tossed the car keys at his feet. They clattered on the pavement, glinting under the morning sun. "Go on, Mozart. Impress me. If you play something worth hearing, I'll give you the car and a sandwich." Marcus looked down at the keys, then at the man's grin. He could have walked away. He could have ignored it. But something inside him refused. He picked up the keys, not to own them, but to hold his dignity. "You sure about that?" he asked. Chadwick crossed his arms. "Oh, I'm sure. Let's make it interesting. You play, I judge." He turned to his friends. "And if he sucks, someone record it. I'll post it on TikTok. Title it, 'When the Streets Try to Be Beethoven.'" The group burst into laughter again. Marcus walked toward the piano. It was sitting just inside the gate, a luxury showpiece, untouched, gathering dust like an ornament of status. The kind of piano meant for decoration, not devotion. As he brushed his fingers across the keys, silence slowly crept over the crowd. The air changed, the kind of quiet that means something's about to happen. He sat, back straight, shoulders relaxed, eyes closed. And then, he played. Not perfectly, not polished, but honest. Each note carried a story of hunger, of rain-soaked nights under bridges, of dreams that refused to die. The sound was raw and human, cutting through the smug laughter like lightning through still air. Even the birds stopped. Chadwick's smirk faltered. His friends glanced at each other, uncertain now whether to laugh or listen. The melody rose, trembling and fierce, painting pictures words couldn't. Marcus's fingers danced, not with arrogance, but with memory. He saw his mother's face, the first to teach him music. He saw the church where he once played as a boy. He saw the concert hall that banned him after a scandal he never caused. Every note told that story. Every chord bled truth. The air leaned forward slightly, face tightening. For a moment, he forgot to breathe. The melody sounded familiar. Too familiar. Marcus struck the final chord and lifted his hands. The echo lingered like smoke. Then silence. No one spoke. Even the wind hesitated. Marcus stood, ready to walk away. "You can keep your car," he said softly. "I already got what I needed." As he turned, Chadwick forced a laugh, brittle, defensive. "Lucky guess, man. Probably rehearsed that street junk." He gestured to his friends. "Come on, let's go. This show's over." But it wasn't. Inside the house, behind a glass balcony, a figure had been watching. An older man, Mr. Stone Sr., eyes wide, hand trembling. He knew that melody, because his late wife had written it. The melody still echoed through the marble walls of the Stone estate, haunting, alive, unforgettable. From his balcony, Mr. Richard Stone Sr. froze in disbelief. That tune, that same broken yet beautiful arrangement, had been written by his late wife Eleanor over 20 years ago, a composition that had never been published, never performed publicly. Only one man besides her had ever played it, and that man was now standing at his gate, covered in dust and silence. Down below, Chadwick slammed his car door, trying to drown the awkward quiet. "Come on, guys, let's go." Dude just got lucky. But nobody laughed this time. His friends looked pale, awkward, whispering under their breath. The mockery had dissolved into something else, respect or maybe guilt. Marcus turned to leave. The world had taught him to walk away from moments like this, moments where truth collided with pride. But before he could take a step, a voice echoed from behind the mansion gates. "Wait!" Everyone turned. The gate creaked open, and out stepped Mr. Stone Sr., wearing a gray robe and a look that mixed shock with sorrow. Chadwick frowned. "Dad, what are you doing outside?" Richard ignored his son and walked toward Marcus slowly, eyes locked on the man's weathered face. Where did you learn that piece?" Marcus hesitated, unsure how to respond. "I wrote it." "Well, I helped write it. Years ago." Richard's breath caught. "That's impossible." Marcus smiled faintly. "Not impossible, just forgotten." The silence between them thickened. Chadwick looked between the two men, confusion breaking through his arrogance. "Dad, you know this guy?" Richard didn't answer. His voice trembled when he spoke again. "What's your name, son?" "Marcus," the man replied softly. "Marcus Hale." Richard staggered back a step, like the name had punched him in the chest. "Marcus Hale, Eleanor's old piano student." Marcus nodded slowly. "She was my teacher, my friend, my light when the world didn't want to hear my music." The words hit hard. Chadwick blinked, his smirk fading completely. "Wait, you mean Mom's student? The one who disappeared after she died?" Richard looked at Marcus with haunted eyes. "They said you stole from the conservatory, that you forged her compositions." Marcus's jaw tightened. "They said a lot of things. It's easier to believe lies when they fit your picture of guilt." The street was silent again, but this time, the silence was heavy with history. Richard took another step closer. "We looked for you." Marcus cut him off. "You didn't. You closed the door the moment they said a poor black man was to blame. You let them bury me with a reputation, just so yours stayed clean." His voice didn't rise. It stayed calm, but every syllable carried pain sharp enough to cut through marble. Chadwick opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. The world he'd built on easy privilege was starting to crack. Richard's eyes glistened. "Marcus, my wife adored you. She said you played like your soul could heal others. She told me once, if I die, tell Marcus to keep playing." Marcus looked away, jaw trembling. "I tried, but doors closed faster than my fingers could move." A gust of wind blew across the driveway, carrying the faint echo of the melody he'd just played. Then, from across the street, a small crowd began to form, neighbors who had heard the music. They whispered among themselves, recording with their phones, drawn by the mystery of a homeless man playing a mansion's piano like he owned the stars. Richard turned toward them, ashamed. "Let's go inside." "Not here." Marcus hesitated. The mansion loomed before him. The same gate that had mocked him minutes ago, now standing open like an invitation. "I don't belong in there," he said quietly. Richard's voice softened. "You belonged here long before any of us did." Chadwick looked between them, struggling to process everything. His friends were already backing away, uncomfortable, humbled, unsure what to say. "Dad," Chadwick finally muttered, "this guy was trespassing. He's just—" Richard spun on him with sudden fury. "Enough. That guy is the reason your mother ever touched a piano. He's the reason she smiled when the world was falling apart." The words cut deep. Chadwick flinched like he'd been slapped. Marcus stood there, silent, watching father and son argue. A strange, painful symmetry of privilege and guilt. Then Richard turned back to Marcus. "Please," he said softly, "come inside. I think it's time we talked about what really happened to you." For a long moment, Marcus said nothing. The mansion lights glowed like a world he once dreamed of. Unreachable, golden, untouchable. Finally, he nodded. "All right, but not for pity. For truth." He stepped through the gate. Behind him, Chadwick stared. The same gate that had once been a wall between them now closing, locking him out. The marble hallway of the stone mansion felt colder than Marcus remembered. Each footstep echoed, not just in sound but in history. He used to walk these halls in clean suits, with sheet music tucked under his arm and Eleanor Stone smiling by his side. Now, barefoot and bruised by life, he walked past portraits of men who had never lifted a finger yet built empires on others' backs. Mr. Richard Stone led the way in silence. Chadwick followed reluctantly, arms crossed, jaw tight, his pride clinging to him like armor. They entered the music room. The grand piano stood in the center, spotless, gleaming under the chandelier. Eleanor's piano. Marcus stopped short. His eyes glistened as he touched it gently, fingertips tracing the familiar scratches. She loved this instrument, he whispered. So it was the only thing that ever listened when she cried. Richard swallowed hard. She did. Chadwick rolled his eyes slightly, muttering, "Can someone explain why a homeless guy is talking like he owns this place?" Marcus turned to him, calm but sharp. "Because once, I played here more times than you ever did." The air thickened. Richard motioned to his son. "Sit down, Chad. You need to hear this." They sat. Marcus stayed standing, a silhouette of humility wrapped in quiet power. "I met Eleanor at the conservatory," he began. "She saw something in me when no one else did. I was the first black student in her master class. She said I had light in my hands." He smiled faintly at the memory. "We wrote music together. She wanted to publish a joint album. Her compositions, my performance. But before it could happen, someone accused me of stealing her work." Richard's head lowered. "That someone was me?" Chadwick froze. "What?" Richard's confession spilled like poison finally leaving the body. "The board came to me with rumors. I panicked. I thought protecting her name meant silencing yours. I told them you'd forged her signature on the drafts. They fired you before I could stop it." Marcus nodded slowly. "You didn't try to stop it." Richard's voice cracked. "You're right. I didn't. I was a coward." Chadwick looked stunned, the image of his perfect father cracking before his eyes. Marcus exhaled, steady but shaking inside. "That scandal ruined me. No school would hire me. No student would learn from me. I played on the streets until my hands bled. Every note I played was a prayer for someone to remember I existed." The silence that followed was brutal. You could almost hear Chadwick's pride collapsing. He finally spoke, voice low. "I didn't know." Marcus looked at him, not with anger, but pity. "You never asked to know. You just saw what the world told you to see. A man with dark skin near your gate, and assumed he was nothing." Chadwick looked down. Marcus turned back to Richard. "I never hated Eleanor for what happened. She tried to fight for me. She wrote that song we played today the night before she died. Said it was her apology to me." Richard's eyes welled up. "You're telling me that melody was meant for you?" Marcus nodded. "It was her goodbye." The old man covered his face, tears falling freely. Chadwick stood frozen, unsure whether to comfort his father or himself. Then Marcus sat at the piano. "You want to know what it really means to lose everything? Listen." He played again. This time, not for anger, for truth. The melody rose slow and tender, filling every corner of the mansion like a ghost returning home. Each note was a confession, each chord a wound reopening. The house seemed to breathe with the music, the chandelier trembling, memories flickering alive. Chadwick felt something shift inside him. The arrogance, the jokes, the mockery, they all felt so small now. He remembered laughing at this man just hours ago, throwing keys at him like bait. And now, he couldn't look him in the eye. Marcus ended with a whisper of sound, the final note fading like a heartbeat. Then he stood. "This house has ghosts," he said quietly, "but not the kind you can exorcise. Only the kind you face." Richard stepped forward. "Marcus, if I could go back." "You can't," Marcus interrupted gently, "but you can do something now." Richard nodded slowly. "Tell me how." Marcus looked around the lavish room, then back at Chadwick. "Start by teaching your son that humility costs nothing." Chadwick's eyes lifted, shame heavy but awakening. For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. He just said softly, "I'm sorry." The words were raw, honest, maybe for the first time in his life. Marcus gave a small nod. "Then listen. That's how healing begins. Outside, rain began to fall soft, cleansing. The mansion windows glistened as if the heavens themselves were washing away old sins. Inside, Marcus turned from the piano. "There's one more thing you should know." Richard looked up. "What's that?" Marcus's eyes darkened with truth. "Your family didn't just ruin my career. You profited from it." Richard froze. The rain outside drummed against the glass like the ticking of a guilty clock. "What do you mean profited?" he asked. Marcus's gaze was calm but cutting. "I mean your family didn't just stand by while I was destroyed. You built on it." He turned toward the shelves lined with framed awards, golden plaques, and signed music rights contracts. "That collection right there," Marcus said, pointing to the wall, "those are my compositions. My notes. My work. Repackaged and sold under Eleanor Stone's Legacy Foundation. Founded by you 2 years after she died." Richard's eyes widened. "That can't be true. The foundation published only her work." Marcus stepped closer. His voice dropped low, the kind that didn't need to shout to carry truth. "She left me the rights, Mr. Stone, in her will. But someone, maybe your lawyers, maybe you, made sure that version never saw daylight." He pulled a folded, rain-worn document from his jacket pocket. "I found this at the courthouse years later. Her signature, the original will. She left the pieces to me to publish in my name." Richard's knees seemed to buckle. "God, oh!" Chadwick watched in stunned silence, eyes darting between the two men. "Dad, is he saying what I think he's saying?" Marcus's voice was steady now, years of pain refined into precision. "Your family built a fortune on music I wrote. You called it Eleanor's lost works. But they weren't lost. They were stolen." The words hit like thunder. Richard stumbled back into a chair, shaking. I didn't know. The lawyers, they said it was unfinished drafts. They said they were hers." Marcus's eyes glistened, not from anger, from exhaustion. "You didn't ask. You just signed the checks." Chadwick stood frozen. The world he'd grown up in, the house, the cars, the private schools, all suddenly felt like stolen goods. "Dad," he whispered, "our whole life came from him?" Richard's lips trembled. From her. From both of them. Marcus walked to the piano and placed the document gently on it, as if returning something sacred. "I never came for revenge. I came to remember her, to play her song one last time." He looked at Richard, eyes soft but firm. "But maybe now, you'll finally face what you buried." Richard pressed his palms against his face. The guilt was suffocating, thick in the air like smoke after a fire. Chadwick looked at Marcus, tears welling. "I mocked you," he said quietly. "I threw my car keys at you like your dignity was a joke. I thought you were nothing." Marcus nodded slowly. "You thought wrong. But it's not too late to learn." Richard stood again, unsteady. "Marcus, I can make this right. The foundation, the rights, the royalties, they all belong to you. I'll transfer everything back." Marcus smiled faintly. "Money won't fix what pride destroyed." Richard's voice cracked. "Then tell me what will." Marcus looked around the grand music room. Silent, empty, filled with ghosts. "Give the music back to the people it was meant for. Kids like me. The ones who'll never get inside these walls." For a long moment, Richard just stared. Then he nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks. "We'll start a school. In her name, in yours. Free lessons. Real access. Not charity, justice." Chadwick wiped his face, ashamed but awakening. "I'll run it. I owe you that much." Marcus looked at him. "You owe yourself more, a better legacy than this." Outside, lightning split the sky, illuminating the rain-soaked windows. The storm had arrived, but inside the mansion, something heavier was lifting. Richard turned to the piano, the same one that started it all. "Play again," he whispered. "Please. One last time. For her." Marcus hesitated, then sat down. His fingers hovered over the keys, trembling, reverent. This time, when he played, the sound was different. Lighter. Freer. Every note felt like forgiveness slowly untangling from pain. Richard closed his eyes, hearing his wife in every chord. Chadwick sat quietly in the corner, his head bowed, humbled not by words, but by truth. The song ended. Marcus stood. The rain outside eased to a whisper. Richard looked at him. You've given me back more than music, Marcus. You've given me a second chance. Marcus smiled faintly. Then don't waste it. He turned to leave. But before he reached the door, Chadwick called out softly, "Wait." Marcus paused, looking back. Chadwick took a step forward, holding out something that shimmered in the dim light. The same car keys he'd thrown hours ago. This time, Chadwick said, voice low, trembling, "It's not a bet. It's respect." Marcus looked at the keys, then at the young man's face, stripped of arrogance, filled with regret. He didn't take them. Instead, he smiled. "Keep it," Marcus said. "Maybe one day, you'll drive somewhere that changes you." Then he walked out into the rain. The same rain that once soaked his nights, now washing his past clean. Behind him, the mansion lights flickered, not dimly, but as if a long-buried truth had finally been set free. The morning sun rose over the stone estate, washing the wet pavement in gold. The storm had passed, but its memories still lingered, in the puddles, in the quiet, in the hearts it had changed. Marcus stood once more outside the gate, the same gate where humiliation had begun, now open wide behind him. A small crowd had gathered, reporters, neighbors, even a few of Chadwick's friends. Word had spread fast. The story of the homeless pianist who silenced arrogance had already become a legend overnight. From the mansion steps, Richard Stone walked toward him with a folder in his hands. "It's done," he said softly. "The foundation's been renamed, the Heir Music Project. It'll fund music schools in every poor neighborhood across the state. You'll lead it, if you'll accept." Marcus looked at the folder, then at the man. "I'm not used to people offering me anything I didn't earn." Richard smiled sadly. "You earned this a long time ago." They shook hands, not master and beggar, but equals. Then came Chadwick, shoulders lowered, eyes sincere. "I wanted to say." Marcus stopped him with a raised hand. "Don't say it. Show it. Every day." The young heir nodded, emotion tight in his throat. "I will." Cameras clicked as Marcus walked back toward the gate. He paused, looking out at the street where he'd once slept, the sidewalks that had listened when no one else did. A journalist asked, "Mr. Hale, what will you do now?" Marcus smiled faintly, eyes on the horizon. "What I've always done. Play. And this time, they'll listen." He stepped through the gate, no longer locked out, no longer small. And for a moment, the world felt right again. The piano from inside drifted into the air. Chadwick was playing now, clumsy but trying, the same melody that once divided them, now connecting them. Marcus turned, smiled once more, and walked into the sunlight. And that's how a homeless black man turned humiliation into harmony and made a billionaire's family face their own truth. But here's the question. If you were in Marcus's shoes, would you forgive them or walk away forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe talent and dignity will always rise above arrogance, hit subscribe because more stories like this are coming your way.